Certainly a moment none of us expected when the Jags were picked to win the SWAC West during the preseason. Yet here we are, head coach Eric Dooley fired before he's even able to finish his second year on the bluff. Just a month ago, the Jags were in the driver's seat, controlling their own destiny in the conference on their way to another title game appearance. Yet after 2 losses and a meeting with athletic director Roman Banks, it appeared Banks and Dooley's vision did not align for the future.
I think hiring Coach Dooley was a great boost for us. He was able to stimulate the fan base. Just looking at where we were last year versus this year wasn't the expectation. And for me, it's just didn't have a clear version of the game plan going forward. It was, very frustrating at times to the fans, to the people, to the media. We missed this one on me, and we're going to make some changes.
Moving forward, the philosophy of interim head coach Terrence Graves and acting head coach Sean Wallace aligns with what Banks wants, and that's winning a Bayou Classic against that team from up north.
Winning this game solves a lot of ills, and it makes a lot of people happy. And more importantly, the players are happy, because that's the most important thing. You want those guys to leave off the field as winners to springboard to the next season.
Going into the hospital for an IV and being told that you got stage 4 pancreatic cancer isn't fair. However, life is about how you respond to it. And so we must respond to it in a positive manner and go forward, because that's what life requires of us if we want to win.
Now, both men in charge do have experience in that big game. Graves as a coach 2 years ago, winning it with Grambling, and Wallace as a player on the field with that Jaguar Dog AD, trying to recapture that magic in the 50th edition of the Bayou Classic. Reporting on Southern football for your Go Nation, I'm Pat.
A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. As you can see, a lot to talk about on today's show. Eric Dooley relieved of his head coaching duties at Southern University, and you kind of got the feeling something was going on, but I'll give you my opinion, what I thought was going to happen. We'll look at everything. We'll let everyone express themselves about Coach Dooley being relieved of his coaching duties. Charles Edmond in the guest menu, Willa Brown and B.J. Jones. Simply what's trending, what I just talked about. Coach Eric Dooley relieved of his head coaching duties at Southern University. We'll give our thoughts on everything that's happened this past week, and it's been a lot. Also, I will just give you, in my humble opinion, my criteria for the next football coach at Southern University. We started the show off with Roman Banks, Director of Athletics at Southern University, basically talking about the decision to move on. For some, it was very surprising. I thought, and just don't shoot the messenger, but if you want to do it, you can as well. I thought early on he would probably get another year, and with that would be stipulations that he had to win a championship or else. But we kind of look at some other factors, the fan interest, lack of communication, Coach Banks stated, and really just kind of rubbed the Jaguar Nation fan base, rubbed them the wrong way. And I really believe if brought back for 2024, then you would have seen something similar that you saw in Jackson, Mississippi at one time. We're just not going to come to the games. We're that dissatisfied with Coach Dooley. Now, going from the Western Division Championship, albeit they had to have some help to make it, then the quarterback situation, offensively promising a, what can we say, highlight on the football field, basketball show on the football field, high-octane, explosive offense. You never really saw it. So be careful what you say, because when you do come out and say things like that, you have to just simply back it up. And you just didn't see it. With that being said, we'll now bring in our guest, co-host, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, live in Jackson, Mississippi. Of course, we'll talk about some big games in the SWAC as well. Soul Bowl, the Florida Classic, Willa Brown. We simply call him AD Willa Brown. And I'm sure during this show, we're going to have some lively discussion, some agreements, some disagreements, agree to disagree. That's what makes, I think, a good show. We'll get everybody's perspective. Charles, good morning to you. Willa, good morning to you as well.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Charles, are we going to agree or disagree right off the bat? with the big story, of course, is Coach Dooley relieved of his duties.
I 100% disagree with this decision. 100% disagree in terms of you gave a coach. Let's not even call Eric Dooley's name. Let's just say the coach. You gave your head football coach 2 years. And you're coming off a year, albeit you might say they backed into the division's championship game last year, the SWAC championship game. You still got there in year one. Does that account for anything? Does that matter? To me, in my own personal opinion, yeah, it matters. But Carlos, I also have to think about something maybe that might have spelled the beginning of the end. The SWAC championship game here against Jackson State. If I remember correctly, there were questions about the quarterback play then, and the quarterback was very inconsistent, and the inability, for whatever reason, to make changes even in that championship game might have been kind of a pre-telling of what could possibly happen down the road, which is where we are right now. But in terms of just a coach, doesn't matter the name. To give a coach 2 years, and Eric Dooley was the guy that, from all indications, the vast majority of the Jaguar Nation was excited about. Some were not, of course, in any hire. You're excited about the guy coming back home and all of that. 2 years? I think that's a short hook. If we're having this conversation next year, okay, let's sit down, let's have a conversation, and let's see what the pathway is going forward. But 2 years to me is just a short period. It's too short of a sample size. Even though he was fired, in my opinion, the resume is incomplete. He won the division title year one, however way he got there. Year two, a disappointment, especially the last couple of weeks, losing to Alcorn, completely coming apart at the seams. The game last week, some maddening losses, some maddening decisions, some maddening play calling, all of that. I think year three, you'll get a more solid idea in terms of the direction of the program. But year two,
I saw enough. It's like a bad marriage. It's the other half says, I'm unhappy, and they are telling you, they're giving you signals, and then you don't see it. You don't see it, but then you do see it. So it's removed.
But Carlos.
Go ahead, Will.
Whatever happened to marriage counseling? And it could have been some intervention in there somewhere in order to see exactly what the problem is. There's not enough communication out there, I think, to fully make a determination. But at the same time, okay, 2 years, that's unacceptable in my book. I mean, it's something that needs to happen incrementally. Like we would have sat down at the end of this season right here and really looked at the blueprint for the direction of the program. I need to know in no uncertain terms what the direction is. I need to know that people are being held accountable, the whole 9 yards with that. But also what needs to be known from an administrative point of view, the accountability from up high. Where are we? Like Charles was just saying, this was a grand hire when it was done. I mean, it wasn't on the prime level or anything like that, but with this guy coming back to Southern, being a Pete Richardson disciple, the whole 9 yards with that, it was just too much ballyhoo there for this guy to have been let go after 2 short years. And then my other comment, Carlos, is how much of the roster was his? After 2 years, how much of the roster was his? I'm a venture and go on a limb and say maybe 50% at best. But if I'm dealing with 50% of my players and 50% of what I inherited, to expect everything to be, on all cylinders, that sort of thing. I mean, that's not something that you expect that early in the tenure. And then the last thing, before I turn it back over to you, what does it say for the next person coming in the door? Because I'm gonna guarantee you right now, everybody wants this job. Don't get me wrong. Southern is in an attractable place. That sort of thing is very attractive, the whole 9 yards with that. But when you get into that upper echelon of coaches, the cream de la creme, or whatever it is you want to call it, okay, those questions are going to have to be answered. If I'm a top dog somewhere and I'm on Southern short list, somebody's going to have to explain to me why I won't be fired in year 2. Somebody's got to let me know, tell me what's going on. And I mean, so those are questions, Carlos, that beg for an answer, and that's going to need to be answered prior to moving forward in whatever shape, form, or fashion we're going to be moving.
Well, interesting points, valid, both perspectives. And you mentioned something, it has to go higher. If you ask the Jaguar Nation, it shouldn't just stop at Coach Dooley. It should go all the way up. And you know what goes next? The director of athletics. Now, whether he made the direct hire, and he came on this show, and I'll offer him to come back on. He said he makes a direct hire. The board allows him to do such. He said that on 2 occasions. So, no, it shouldn't just stop there. Some would say that you have to reform the whole athletic department, as far as from the leadership capability. But I'll go to the press conference and here's what Coach Banks gave the reason. Southern University Athletic Director Ron Beck said he made the decision to part ways with head football coach Eric Dooley at a meeting Tuesday morning based on philosophies, timing, and how he thought the program should be progressing. He said it was regrettable in such a short span of time, addresses what you guys have said in a 2-year period. And by the way, we won't just stop with Coach Dooley. The atmosphere we have now, whether you like it or not, you have to win now. We're hearing other coaches in this conference. Do I need to say names? Why? For being stubborn, one. One coach has been there 5 years at Texas Southern, so that is a good sample size, right? Okay, we'll come back to that. Just short of 2 seasons, but necessary and especially disappointing with the positive impact the hiring had in the beginning. Coach Banks says hiring Coach Dooley was a great boost for us. He stimulated the fan base. He brought a lot of alumni football players back to be involved. And some football players are not happy, former football players. Joseph said, can Banks be trusted to make this hire? We'll get into that. Somewhere along the way, well, let me back up. Season ticket sales went up. Attendance went up. Somewhere along the way, communicating with the fan base, you communicate with your fan base with your work ethic and at the podium talking. You accept responsibility and let them know we're working to correct ourselves. Now, I'll stop there. Some of the problem was communicating, and we know the fan base was unhappy. We know that. They also were excited when he first came aboard. But Coach Banks says he philosophies, not and I think during the weekly press conference every week, he basically said we're going to fix the problem. And he didn't. And then if you just look on the field, what happened? Yeah, they had their goals ahead of them that they could obtain, but it went just sour really quick. And
Carlos,
wait a minute. And administration decided to make a move. Now, they're going to be held accountable. I said in my opening, I thought he was going to be given another year. That's not the case. So they moved on. Willer, you want to say
Carlos,
something?
I would beg to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that the lack of communication or proper communication
Mm-hmm.
not just started with Coach Dooley.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to come above him. Was he mandated by the people above him to say, look, this is what's going on within the program, la-di-da, so forth and so on, or was he just told to, go out there and say what you feel you need to say, or what have you? Did he get proper guidance from the people above him in terms of A, what's going on with the program,
Mm-hmm.
B, how much of what's going on in the program do you want me to put out there, or am I comfortable with putting out there? So I mean, I'm not going to let my coach dangle in the wind, okay, especially if I know that he may be uncomfortable in certain areas in terms of expressing things like that. That's when I, as the supervisor or the director of athletics, I got to step in. Okay, I got to take this heat. My seat is already hot because we're tied at the hip. Then I got to step in and be more forceful and be more upfront in terms of exactly what's going on in the program. And the second thing, Carlos, is unless this man was fired for cause, somebody owes him $620,000.
Oh, he's going to get that.
Where is that coming from, Carlos? Where is it coming from?
Well, apparently.
Where is it coming from in times when
wait a minute.
begging? We're all begging and complaining. We're talking about having to play all these guarantee games in basketball and all this sort of thing. We got to do this. We got to do that in order to make ends meet. But now all of a sudden, magically, $620,000 comes from out of the wind. To be able to pay this guy and move forward.
Willer, to do that, they must have had that plan already in place, and they have. You're looking at 620. You're correct. Someone says, Willer Brown, relax. The money is there. 620,000. Whatever you want to pay. Let's say if you want to pay the next coach 300,000, that's almost $1 million. I don't think they went out and said we're going to find him and then find the money. I think it's already done. Is it coming from Southern University per se? Booster groups, sponsors? Who knows? I could throw out names, but I won't do it.
But it's 620 that could come. 620 that could go to other areas that desperately need it right now. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's 620 that could be utilized in a better manner.
Well,
to me.
Yeah, I understand. And then too, next year, season books, ticket sales. Pretty much you saw that at Jackson. They threatened not to renew and not to come to the games. Administration moved quickly. So, I mean, it's other factors off the field. Then there's factors on the field, the product itself. Judging by the chat room, most people are like, it was the right move. You do it now, and next year, 2024, unless he wins a championship, he's probably gone then. And do you feel comfortable enough? Do you think that Southern football would be in Atlanta in 2024? We can make predictions, Charles, but this thing went off the rail quickly, and I think majority of the people, just from who I talked to and in the chat room, they're going with the decision.
It's pretty loud out here, but it did go off the rails quickly for me, too quickly for me. And my thing is, Carlos, is that the next coach that you hire, if you don't make a big splash right away, what's going to happen? Let's say it's the same. Let's say you hired Wheeler Brown as the next head coach. Big splashy hire. Everybody's excited because he's not Eric Dooley.
Mm-hmm.
You win some games, you get to the championship game, you don't get it done, and then year two, things jump off the rails. Then all of a sudden you become unhappy. And then you got the same road again. It could happen. It might not, but it might. And that's when the rubber meets the road. All I'm saying is that, hey, if you gave Eric Dooley another year, I don't know what his contract was, 3 years with a fourth year option. I think that's a 4-year contract. Okay, so
with an option, yeah.
So you're on the hook for 2 more years of his contract, regardless, right? Then obviously the right people do not see that he's the right guy for the job, and they pull the hook pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. They don't want to invest 2 more years.
And let's be honest, guys, and you may disagree. The climate that we in now, you have to win quickly. You don't get 5 years anymore. Wheeler, I think there's Dean Barnes there going by that. Wheeler, I think you're a throwback. You, as an AD, you would give a coach 4 to 5 years, correct?
I would give him at least 3, Carlos. At least 3. There's no doubt about that. I don't believe you know what kind of coach you have until the end of year 3. I just don't. I by that time, the roster is 75% your roster. You know what the direction is, and you know the lay of the land and the whole 9 yards with that. I really don't think until the end of year 3 that you really have a full grip on the situation, to where we can sit back and say this is the direction or this is where we are going moving forward. And just appears, as Charles was saying, year 1 was the kiss of death for him. When he went to the championship game, albeit he backed in the door, when he went there, the bar was set and nothing else was going to satisfy Jaguar Nation moving forward. But that was not the norm, by no means. I mean, so I just believe, like I said, Carlos, I don't think you know what you have as a coach until the end of year 3. I just don't believe it. And anything else, before that, can be a plus for you if you're doing well and the kids love you and so forth and so on. But, I mean, my job as a lead administrator is to help my coaches to be successful any way that I can. And if that means we're having conversations on a regular basis in terms of direction, in terms of being held accountable, in terms of what needs to go forth, in terms of, public perception and all that sort of thing, stuff like that, then it's my job to make sure that coach is prepared to handle those things, and that he's moving in that direction for the good of the department and the good of the program.
So you would say then that Coach Banks And we talked before the show started. It's enough blame to go around. So Coach
Yes.
Banks is going to be on the hot seat, and I don't know. He in that video he did say that it was on him. He made the decision, and he thought it was a great hire at the time.
Carlos.
But
Carlos.
well, let me
Carlos.
finish. Will.
Carlos.
No, Let me
does
finish.
That mean?
Let me
What
finish.
does that mean? What does that mean?
What does what mean?
What you just said. What does that mean? It's
Well,
on
Coach
me.
Banks?
It's on me. I'll take the blame. La-di-da. So what does it mean? What does it mean, Carlos?
He's on the hot seat.
Okay, well, what does it mean?
He takes blame for his hire, quote unquote. Now, did someone else have influence? We've seen that happen before.
Yes,
we're not going to sit up here and say, "Oh, well, that doesn't happen."
Yes, we have.
I can't speak for other universities, but I know a little bit of something about Southern University and how it goes. The end of the day, he or people of influence made a decision, and they're going to have to live with it. Some people say, yeah, so his contract was bought out by deep pockets, boosters and stuff. But at the end of the day, they made the decision. They're going to have to live with it. We can agree and disagree, give him one more year, a third year, then it could still possibly end up being that way, that he gets let go, relieved of his duties. But I say it's going to go far reaching. And then are you serious? Are you serious about having a great athletic department? There are other things that need to be addressed within the athletic department at Southern University. Then you're looking at that hire. What about the other hires? So we'll see. They've made the decision. We can talk about it. We can agree and disagree why they did it. But the bottom line is going to fall back on Coach Banks and the athletic administration. Now, what are they looking for in the next coach? I think the interest will be there. Should he have the direct hire ability again? Or do they go back to the old way, forming a committee, a small committee? Bottom line, the decisions they make, we will see, Wheeler.
I will say this, and I'll let Charles jump in. I will say this, no athletic administrator should have to bat 1,000 in the hiring game. It's not going to happen, Carlos. It's not going to happen. I mean, and we all, as athletic administrators, we understand that. We're not going to bat 1,000, okay? But, we're expected to hit at a high average, when we do have to make those hires, and we have to be all in every way when we make those hires. So we got to get behind these guys 110%. We got to get them all the things that they need in order to be successful. We got to have these meetings. We got to talk. We got to sit down and plan the direction. I need to feel comfortable with the direction. The coach needs to feel comfortable coming to me. We need to make sure all the I's and T's are dotted and crossed. Everything is in place in order to be successful. The dollars are there, and la-di-da, so forth and so on. And then we move forward, and we go ahead and do the things that we need to do. But we just gotta do that. We gotta do that. No doubt. We got to do that. But you're not going to bat 1,000. So anybody that's looking for an administrator to bat 1,000 in the hiring game ain't going to happen. But Southern has done itself a disservice now, Carlos, in terms of moving forward. Because you're telling the next guy coming in, if you don't win in year 1 or year 2, you're going out the door.
Well, now wait a minute, Will. if you look at it, we could use Trey Oliver for an example, right? You look at Trey Oliver, and that's one of the names. Oh boy, out there, I don't see that. You know, when you're at home, but when you look at his first 2 years, first year wasn't good, but the second year you saw improvement. Then the third year you saw improvement, and then now I think something like, well, by the way, they lost to Howard 50-20. But I see, but I see progress.
Yeah, Carlos, but he
But-
didn't
but-
have
but-
he didn't have the kiss of death where he came in and he won the championship his first year in.
Yeah, but he went.
So
but-
there was
but wait a minute,
was
but he went
time.
back- but he
There
went
was
back
time
home.
for him. There
He
was
went back
time for
home.
him. There was
Mhm.
time for him to develop and grow into the position, you know,
Mhm.
prior to him ultimately reaching the success that he has right now, and continue to move forward from there. Now, if I'm Trey Oliver, do I leave North Carolina Central to come to Southern? And no disrespect to anybody, ain't no way in hell. Not gonna do it.
No, he's going.
If I
home.
am Chennis Berry at Benedict right now, am I leaving Benedict to come to Southern? Even though we're talking about moving up to FCS and all the things that go with that, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. You know, I mean, I'm just not gonna do it, Carlos, because I don't trust the process right now. I don't trust that the people and the powers that be are going to have my back when I come in that door and give me the time necessary in order to do the thing the right way and build this thing the way that it needs to be built. I just don't trust it right now. I don't. You know, somebody's really going to have to do a great selling job to me, you know, to get me to come in there and roll the dice and take that chance.
Wow, it is. There's one. Southern is telling the next guy, don't be inflexible and at least be proficient in the area that I allegedly have expertise. Now, he's talking about just on the field. Charles, I know it's loud there, and it's probably going to continue to get louder. But go ahead. Let's attempt to see if you can.
It is loud. But Carlos, when you talked about Trey Oliver, what did you say? Year 1, year 2, and then year 3. He was given a year 3. Eric Dooley was not given a year 3.
But guess what? He had improvement. He didn't go from the first year down. But what do y'all don't see about that? I mean,
it happens though. I mean, what I'm saying is that to get a complete resume, to me, in my opinion, this is my opinion, Eric Dooley's resume is incomplete. In my opinion, he won the Western Division, and it was a down year. Does that mean that he's a bust? No. Let's see what happens in year 3. Let's see if he trends back upwards. You don't know because he wasn't given a year 3. So to me, it's incomplete. He won the West, and let's attack that part of it. Backing in to the division title game last year, I had to think about it. Didn't Southern have to beat Grambling last year to win the West?
To some, they have to beat them every year. But
what I'm saying is that if they did not beat Grambling in the Bayou Classic, they would not have won the West. Is that correct?
Yeah, but Charles, if two teams would have won, it wouldn't even matter.
To me, you still had to win the game in front of you, though. If they didn't win the Bayou Classic, they wouldn't have. So there's no backing in.
But you have to win the game anyway. It wouldn't have mattered if Prairie View, just like today, if they would have won, if Texas Southern would have won, you're not even talking about that. Southern wouldn't be in the championship. But hey, they won the game.
Right.
They won Grambling.
Southern beat Alcorn down the stretch. Yeah, they lost to FAMU. They won the Bayou Classic. They were in the championship game. In my opinion, I don't consider that backing in. You had to earn your way in. So I keep hearing that backing your way in. Well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You still had to win that Bayou Classic to get there. So let's give Southern some credit. Yes, I think they had. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure the chat room will. But if you did win that game,
we're not arguing about that point. Whether if Texas Southern and Prairie View would have won, then Southern wouldn't have made it in there. But they still have to go out just like next Saturday. They still have a lot to play for. They got to go out and win.
I understand that, but
they decided, the administration, whether you agree with it or not, to move on. I think what we're arguing over or debating over or disagreeing over is 1 year, year 3. Right? And to save himself, he would have had to win a championship. But there were other things apparently that was going on internally with Coach Dooley. Separate what's going on the field and then what's going on off the field.
Yeah, well, that part of it we don't know. That part I have no idea what's going on in the complex.
I mean, there got some other things I know that I'm just not going to share.
Right. And so all I've heard is being stubborn. And look, I've talked with coaches this last week, and they're like, "Man, they fired Dooley after 2 years." I'm like, "Yeah, they did." And these are coaches that are telling me this, and they're like, "Why?" And it's like, "Well, stubborn is one word I heard." And they said, "Well, every coach has a shred of stubbornness in them. Landon Bussey is stubborn." And this man's won 2 regular season titles, and he doesn't apologize for it.
But
I don't know, Coach.
But what is the key? What is the key? He won.
He went from the team that he inherited was 9th year before, 6th, and then 2 regular season titles. All right,
he's done a good job, right? A great job.
So Dooley's first season, he wins the West. Everybody's excited. You're dancing on the bluff. You're excited. You lose to Dion, and then the next year the bottom falls out.
I gotta take a drink on this. It's unbelievable.
After 2 years, I mean, I think a lot of head coaches, potential head coaches, are going to look at this and say, "Man, I got to come in the door ready to hit it."
That's the climb. That is the climbing now. Just about every school, some will say, just like, let's just throw it out there, Coach McNair.
Right.
What happens now? He's won what? Some titles, right?
Yep.
He's won some division titles.
Yeah.
Should he or shouldn't he have conversation about, well, he's stubborn, and I've heard it. He doesn't want to change coaches. He's loyal to his coaches. Then he's gone. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe I say, in my opinion, I don't think he should.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because when you stack up what he's done compared to here in Baton Rouge, 2 different situations.
Yeah.
But
I think the thing with Coach McNair, let's just be obvious. Let's be honest about this. I think Coach McNair is stubborn in his own way, like every coach is in their own way. I think the issue is more so with what's going to happen with his staff. There's some conversations, and a lot of folks think that there should be 3 changes that should be made within his staff that Coach McNair has not made to this point. And knowing Coach McNair like I do, and several people do, probably not going to make that change. You know,
but where is his leadership right now? Where is where are the people above him? You know,
it's a mess.
Are they having that frank conversation, that sort of thing, and making him feel as though the program is yours, but certain things we're going to need to see, that sort of thing. I mean, if you're not getting that guidance from up top, okay, and in essence, he pretty much flying blind and being Coach McNair. There's no voice of reason on his shoulder, pretty much saying, "Look, Coach, we might want to look at XYZ, or let's think about this, or let's think about that sort of thing. These are the steps we might want to take a look at, and naturally, it's going to be your call. It's going to be your decision. At the end of the day, I'm going to hold you accountable, for those decisions." Whether it be in the forms of wins and losses, whether it be in the form of, me not being pleased with the direction or the way that the kids are playing, or, the adjustments that are being made, so forth and so on. But, I want to put those things out there on the table so that everybody understands what those expectations are. It ain't a thing of, hey, go ahead, coach, and, do what you do. And, but understand I'm going to hold you accountable, but
Right.
go ahead and do what you do. It's not like that. These guys need help, Carlos. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And we as athletic administrators, it's our job at the end of the day to make sure that they get that help, and then look at the product and hold people accountable accordingly.
I'll say this, Wheeler. We have an interim president right now, Dr. Tracy Cook, who is a former football player.
Mm-hmm.
He played tight end for the Braves back in the 90s when I got there. He knows what football looks like.
Mm-hmm.
He played for a championship team with the McNair era back in the 90s. He knows what it looks like. He knows what it feels like. He knows what it tastes like. So he's watching all of this, not only from an administrator, as you talk about, but as a former football player that's played championship football. He knows the issue. So I think that there will be a conversation. And here's the other thing, Carlos, about these conversations with coaches when things aren't going well. How intense are those? And Wheeler, Mr. Brown, you would know this. How much meddling, well, meddling may be too strong a word. When the season is kind of going off the rails, are you demanding things in that moment? Or do you wait and let the season play out, have those conversations at the end of the season? Because a coach has an opportunity to fix these things. I mean, it's to me, it's always a tricky proposition. When you're losing in the moment, you let your coach fix it. When do you just jump in and say, hey, coach, you got to do this or that? I often wonder, even with Coach Dooley, what that looks like. Like, was he told during the middle of the season after losing to Jackson, FAMU, like, look, coach, this ain't working. You need to do something. You need to do this or that. Or have those conversations, were they made? Have they been had? You wait till the end of the season. Because I've heard AD say, we'll talk at the end of the year. And then we'll, just like Sean Woods. When Sean Woods was let go, at the end of the season, how was that going to look like? Obviously, when Sean Woods said, didn't agree, and they got rid of him at the end of the year. So I'm just wondering what those conversations are like with football in the midst of turmoil and trouble and frustration.
I can answer that a little bit for you, Charles.
All right.
I think if it's something in disciplinary in nature, if it's something disciplinary in nature, that part needs to be rectified right away. So you take care of that. You take care of that on the spot. I's and T's dotted and crossed, and you move forward from there. When you're talking about issues with, let's say, particular assistant coaches, or you talk about philosophical issues, things of that nature, you're expecting the head coach, to be the head coach in terms of making the necessary decisions. Okay, but I don't know that you step in and say, look, Coach Dooley, you need to fire the OC this week. He's just not getting it done. I think it's something where you say, Coach, are you really pleased with the direction that the offense is going in? Is this something that, you're going to take a long look at, as the season progresses and, possibly moving forward? Are we looking at some possible changes? Or, you want to plant that seed in their mind. So what you're saying is, from an athletic administrative point of view, look, I ain't really pleased with this guy, but you're the head coach, and I'm going to give you every opportunity to fix this thing. But at the end of the season, we need to revisit this thing and see if we're better served moving in another direction moving forward. So like I said, certain things, if it's disciplinary in nature or it's involving the kids directly, you want to jump on that at the time that it's happening, that sort of thing. But other issues, I ain't saying you want to ride it out, but you want to make it be known that there's some issues there, and that you as an athletic administrator, you're looking to see how we're going to rectify these things moving forward. You're going to want to see the plan moving forward in terms of what we're going to do about these particular issues as it pertains to the team overall.
Well, wait a minute. That's interesting. Will, I had to make a note. Discipline. Well, let me go back. We're just talking about on the field.
Mm-hmm.
12-10 record overall. And I put mediocre. Against a winning team, losing record. Discipline. We saw that. Last week, we've seen penalties, and an AD doesn't have anything to do with that, correct? I know that's a silly statement that I have to make it, but they have nothing to do with on the field. Penalties, discipline at Alcorn. The week before, all players getting in the face of an Alcorn coach. Charles, were you able to be there? Okay. So there were discipline issues. Not just that game. Throughout this season. Once again, you still look at if I'm the AD and I see progress being made, albeit the first year, we're not going to go all the way into that again about backing in or what have you. The records will show a Western Division title, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you set the bar there. Then coming in, expectations. We talk about the standard. That's what it has on here. So you didn't improve throughout the season. Then you talk about stubbornness. I know for a fact, I'm not going to reveal the name, a person on the staff. You couldn't go and talk to him about things. If I'm a head coach, I got Willa Brown, I got Charles on my staff. I don't want yes men or yes women. If you see something wrong, you could come to me and you could be assured that I'm going to listen. I know the decision falls on me, ultimately. But
Carlos.
those are what Willa.
Carlos.
I'm almost finished. Wait a minute, Willa.
I'm gonna respectfully
well, you
stop
can respectfully after I get through talking.
All right.
After I get through with my statement.
Go ahead. Okay.
But this team just didn't get better at all. You don't see them. They started here and they went down. AD doesn't have anything to do with that on the field. That goes strictly on the head coach. Now, if you were AD, if Charles was AD, I get it. You give him another year. But I tell you what, as much as we agree or disagree, if those fans have checked out, they've checked out.
Carlos, they will
really
check
have.
out. They will check out until you start winning again, which could be the Bayou Classic, could be early. So hey, we are fair weather fans.
Look, it's not like Alabama A&M and Alabama State fans.
Right.
It only matters if they win the Magic City Classic. Whoop-de-doo. Hey, they're doing damn flips. Southern fan base is not like that. You have to win, and then the way you win, they did not progress forward.
Carlos,
Simple as that.
Carlos,
Now,
I'm gonna bring in a line from Scarface. You know, give her a Quaalude. Give her a Quaalude, and she's gonna love me again.
I guess I'm speaking about myself. I'm speaking as a fan.
Carlos, what I wanted to say was that
somebody agrees with me.
I hired Dooley. Did I know truly what I was hiring? Did I know that he was stubborn? Had I checked my resources and things of that nature, to really kind of dig into this guy to find out who he was deep down inside and whether or not he and I were going to be compatible moving forward? Because it seems like it seems like that hadn't taken place. If I know a guy is stubborn and all that sort of thing up front, and You know, I mean, that's a red
Mhm.
flag that shows right away prior to hiring. You know, when I've talked with people, you know, concerning this guy, that sort of thing, that's got to give me some concern, give me some cause to pause for a minute to see whether or not is this guy and I going to be compatible? Are we going to be able to work together? You know, moving forward, is the relationship going to be one of, you know, give and take and trust and, you know, things of that nature? So, I mean,
Mhm.
these are background things I think that you are highlighting that seems to me that I should have knowledge of these things prior to ultimately pulling the trigger, or if it didn't matter at that time.
Mhm.
Did it matter? It might not have mattered. You know, sometimes I feel like I can work with just about anybody, you know,
Mhm.
anywhere, that sort of thing and stuff. But you know, if there are obvious red flags there, you know, then at least I know going in the door exactly what I'm working with, and I can tailor my approach accordingly, you know, to make
Mhm.
sure that we're all on the same page, that sort of thing.
Well, you know,
If
Will,
that
I
makes
think,
sense.
yeah, and I think, you know, as I calm down, I drunk the Kool-Aid like most. You know, you want to support, and you still do. Whoever's the next coach, you're going to support them. There are certain expectations, and I think you said it months ago. You said Coach Dooley knew what he was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, when he take the job, or when he
Mm-hmm.
took the job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm kind of torn now. You know, I'm hearing one thing. Did Coach Banks, and ultimately a couple of weeks ago, and I said again on this show, a direct hire is what he said. He was allowed to, they trust him to make a direct hire. Now I'm hearing that, well, wait a minute. That may not have been the case. Who knows? Did people of influence, and you know when I say that, who I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
did they have a say so? Do we, are we naive enough to think that they didn't have a say so? But it was the perfect PR movement. And again, I drunk the Kool-Aid. I drunk it because it's a head coach that worked under Coach Pete Richardson, who gave his endorsement. So, Coach Richardson, you get right behind me. And among others, who drunk the Kool-Aid, the emotional part of it. But maybe we should have looked at, and I'm talking about me now, the record at Prairie View compared to Southern University. The word I use, 12 and 10, mediocre, it was that at Prairie View. He got into a championship at Prairie View. And who did they lose to, Charles? Jackson State. So some of the things that you saw at Southern, you saw it at Prairie View, but you didn't want to see it, Carlos. You didn't want to see it, but it was right there in front of you. But the motion of it. So again, I thought he would get another year. He didn't. So Southern has made the decision. I got to move on. We can look at it and come out and say, well, yeah, he should have got a third year. He should have got a fourth. There are some people say a contract is a contract. A deal is a deal. But I think there were so many other factors that they made the decision. And he made the recommendation to Dr. Shields, the board, the athletic chair committee, Des Moines Rutledge. And this is what they recommended. And here we are. Now, Willa, you brought up an important point. If you're a coach, if Willa Brown's a coach, I'm thinking twice about coming because will I get fired in year one or year two? Mm-mm. Not if you win and you're making and if you're making progress and you're elevating every year. But yeah, someone say no. Southern fans are not like everybody else. That is true. Boy, 11:56. Charles, go ahead.
Well, now, look, the decision's been made. I have my opinion on it. I think he deserved a little more time, but that didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. All right, so now let's look at this roster. whoever the head coach is going to be has got to inherit this roster. You got 2 quarterbacks on the roster. You had Bowden and Mahotra. What's going to happen there? The transfer portal, that window's coming open shortly. Do you try to keep the players? How's that going to look in terms of rebuilding this roster? The quicker you hire a head coach, the quicker you can kind of get a handle on things. So the next head coach will have kind of a running start. The decision's been made. Okay, so now you hire a coach. You try to keep the players that you got. APR might prevent some of that stuff. How's the roster going to look? How's your quarterback situation going to look? All those questions going forward has to be answered and fairly quickly if you want to, get off to a good start with the next head coach. That's an important question going forward for the next head coach, whoever it is.
Well, transport portal, that's something that you will get Wheeler back. We lost him. That's something you're going to deal with every year. Whether you have, if Dooley's back, you're going to have some kids that's going to transfer, no matter, don't like their playing time, want to move on. Sometimes, hey, you move on because something personal happened back with the family. That's something you're going to have to deal with. I think sometimes before Christmas, I also think you can't be so quick with this next hire, because definitely, as much as I've ranted and raved on this show about what has happened, you got to nail this next hire. And you got to nail it, and you got to get it right. So I don't want to rush and say next week you got to get somebody in, and then you don't do your due diligence and you don't get it done. I say it's going to be before Christmas. It may be before then. Just my opinion. They've lost a player or two already in the transfer portal since this announcement. Before then, they lost some players. And every day, we've talked about the transfer portal and how, to me, that has opened up Pandora's box across the collegiate landscape. But it is what it is. You have to deal with it. In hour number 2, Wheeler, if I may, if you don't laugh at my criteria for the next coach, it's going to be discipline, all of that good stuff, because you really saw some things that just did not sit well as far as discipline. But I'll save that. But 12-10 record. Southern University fans after 22 games. Is that what you expected? I just want to know. 12-10. And based on what I'm seeing, most of the fan base said very disappointed. Very disappointed, and they don't believe that he should have been extended any more time. You hate for somebody to lose their job, but hey, $620,000. It'll make me feel,
I would
a
lose
little
mine.
bit
It'll
better.
make me happy. That's for sure.
So, producer says we hadn't taken a break whole hour, and it's 12 o'clock. B.J. Jones will come into this conversation. Former Southern University football player. I can think
Carlos, BJ had the old U-Haul emoji out there. I think after last week, that said a whole lot. BJ is normally pretty reserved, but he had the big U-Haul thing out there. That said a whole lot.
It's enough. I remember I was in a bad relationship, and it wasn't 3 or 4 years. I was ready to go, and it was bad. The other person was unhappy. I was unhappy. Let's move on. Life is too short, and I'll deal with the consequences afterwards. We'll take a break. Hour number 2 coming back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show.
You have to give us $620,000, did you call her?
No, it didn't cost me that much. It didn't cost me that much at all. But guess what? Hey, I'm different. I gave up everything. Peace of mind and happiness is the best thing you can have.
Yeah, you can't put a price tag on that. Man.
No,
No
sir.
doubt about that. No price on that.
Take
They'll
everything.
fight
No
you on that.
kids involved. None of that. Just take it, and I'll be happily ever after. I can live in the wilderness, eating honey and wild locusts. I'll be happy. I'm happy. We'll be back, folks.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
I'm returning to Clinton, Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton, Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm Carlos Brown, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, A.D. Willer Brown, and Willer. The chat room is blazing. I would love to answer every question And we'll be joined by BJ Jones shortly. But KDG of Baton Rouge says, give Dooley a grade, Carlos Wheeler and Charles Edmond for 2 years being here. Also, even my best friend is chiming in. He says, I agree with Charles with the swift hire of the next coach. Swift before Christmas, whatever time it is, they just better get it right. That's all I got to say. Okay, let's see. Okay, then maybe that's for with BJ. We're transitioning to get him on. Wheeler, you want to give Coach Dooley a grade, or
Sure.
is it an I?
Well, I mean, I would have to give him an incomplete. You know, at the end of the day, I would have to give him an incomplete. But if you're asking in terms of the body of work right now, then I probably have to give him. I probably would have to give him a C minus. And you know, the rationale is simple. You know, I think he was advertised as being this offensive guru, that sort of thing, and you know, I think it probably failed to produce, you know, from that point of view. I mean, at the same time, I think I saw in your chat room where somebody said 85% of the roster was his. And if the roster turned over that quickly, then it begs to kind of ask the question, what kind of chemistry was there ultimately? You know, you just don't bond that quickly, you know. So if you've turned that roster over, and Prime out in Colorado can probably tell you the same thing. I think they're 4-7 right now, or 4-6, or what have you. You know, when you're turning a roster over that quickly, you know, it takes time in terms of, you know, the gelling process and things of that nature. But I'd have to give him a C minus right now, Carlos, if I was grading him based on the body of work thus far.
Wheeler, we have the last name, Brown. So we're bonded at the hip, although we'll agree to disagree sometimes. Incomplete and based on 2 seasons, I think was a question. Charles, I wonder what your grade would be. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna listen. What grade, Charles?
I'm gonna give it an I. I'm gonna give it. I gave my thoughts on his tenure incomplete. I think the first year you won the Western Division. How you back in? How you get in?
So what you giving for that first year?
I think the wins down the stretch, they beat Alcorn, won the Bayou Classic. I would give it first year. I'm gonna give it a B.
Okay.
Give it a B, and this year I would give it, just based on just all the stuff, didn't take advantage of what I thought was a very team-friendly schedule. Didn't play up, played Alabama State, SWAC team, played Jackson at home. I challenged the Jaguars to win a big game at home, didn't do it. Down the stretch, the Alcorn game, I would give this season a D. I give this season a D. So if you do grades, Carlos, you're in education, a B and a D, that averages out to I would think a C.
Mediocre. Yes. That's my point. That's my point.
A B and a D. I would say in the tenure, I would say incomplete. Because at the year 3, you're either going to be on solid footing or you're not going forward. Southern chose not to go forward. They pulled the plug, and I'm gonna give it an incomplete overall grade. Incomplete. 2 years is not enough for me. I'm sorry. 2 years is I'm a Gramblinite, okay? When I was hired at Alcorn, if I was only given, if I screwed up in the first couple of years, the president at that time, and Emmanuel Barnes was right here next to me, worked under Dr. Walter Washington. If I didn't give enough time, I'd have been fired on the spot. And no, I wouldn't have been given a lot of time. but I was given the grace to give a little more time to prove that I can do what I can do for Alcorn. I was given more than 2 years, just given a little more time. And I thank him for that. I just think that Coach Dooley or whatever coach in this league deserves more than 2 years. And I know it's bad. You said it's bad. The Jaguar Nation says it's bad. BJ Jones says it's bad. He had the moving truck emoji out there. Says it's time to go. I get it, and I'm not in that program. But I just think 2 years is just a little bit premature to me. Just my own opinion.
Well, it seems, BJ, the thing is that people get tied up on the length. Boy, I think some people are still traditionalists.
Yeah,
go ahead, BJ.
We've heard a lot this week about the only the 2 years. And looking at it from the outside in, I can understand why people will have the opinion that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's been 2 years and it's been determined that you don't see a problem, you don't think that there needs to be any change, and that we're going to get more of the same in year 3, let's just go ahead and just cut our losses now. You're telling us exactly what we're going to get in year 3 is exactly what we've seen in year 1 and 2. Let's not go there. Let's just go ahead and just cut our losses now and move on.
And if that's the conversation that was had, then I can understand the rationale behind that. Okay, if he was told in no uncertain terms, we need to make changes moving forward. We need to look at X, Y, Z, this, that, and the other, that sort of thing. And he told Mr. Banks that, look, I am who I am. This is what I'm going to do, la-di-da, so forth and so on. If he put it out there like that to that point to where we couldn't see eye to eye on changes that needed to be made for the program, that sort of thing, then maybe in that case, it is best to go ahead and divorce yourself from that situation. But you have to make sure that you tried every avenue in terms of trying to work this thing out if it can be worked out.
That's why I reference it. It's like a marriage. One party sees the problem, but one person doesn't see any and refuses to adjust. Remember that word we used, a couple of weeks ago, making adjustments? And so this is what happened. Basically, we don't see eye to eye. It doesn't seem like it's a chance to be able to rectify the problem. So we're going to go our separate ways.
Now, I'll say this, Carlos. If I'm your supervisor, okay, and I've given you a directive in terms of, certain changes that need to be made, that sort of thing, and you sit there and tell me you're not going to make
I don't
any
see the
changes
problem
at all, then to me, that's a reason to divorce ourselves for cause, because I've given you a directive, and you've blatantly just told me, you're not going to, do anything or change anything or, anything such as that. Now I'm looking at a way to get out of this 620, because that part right there, even though somebody may have the money sitting around somewhere and it may be okay with somebody, I know that my department is in bad enough shape to where that's money I can be putting somewhere else, that sort of thing, and not lining somebody's pockets who doesn't want to go with the program or, do the things that is necessary in order for the program to be successful. So I'm kind of looking at it at that point of view. How do I get out of that 620? Somebody may say we got the money and it's okay, that sort of thing. I would say we never have the money and it's never okay.
Well, Carlos, let me ask you this question, because I don't know. I'm just reading the tea leaves as it happens. Were those things done? Did Coach Dooley say, "Look, I'm not making any changes"? Was he told to make changes midway through at some point during the season? Did that happen? Did those conversations happen? Were they going to happen? Or did they just say, you know what, we're done?
BJ, and you, yeah, I'm gonna give my opinion and tell me if I'm wrong. What I know, he's not going to accept being instructed that you need to make some changes. Remember the word we use, stubborn? That's what Coach Dooley is. Now, even if we go on what we saw the product on the field, BJ, you've seen them in person. Did they progress or degress from day one this season?
They've regressed.
Okay. Do you believe Coach Dooley would be willing to change, maybe if the AD comes to him and who I think doesn't really, although he's a former basketball coach, he comes and says, look, coach, we need to look at doing this. The fans are unhappy. And, you can't just dismiss the fans. I know they're not out there playing, but they're part of the situation. Do you believe he would have changed?
I'm going to say no, and that's based on what I know. Those conversations were taking place during the season. There were multiple conversations that were had, and the belief was, hey, if we keep getting worse, eventually, you're going to keep knocking your head against the wall, and you're going to say, okay, something needs to change. And unfortunately, we just never got to that point.
Nope.
What you saw in press conferences is what you got behind closed doors. That there's no problem, everything is fine, it's fixed, and let's move on. And that's been the company line for the last 2 years with no change.
And you never saw it. You never saw a product. And so, Charles, yes, if you were in charge, yes, and Wheeler, based on what you've heard, you're still going to stick by giving him a third year, right?
No, I mean, my feeling is that.
No, wait a minute. You would still give him a third year, is what I'm saying.
Oh, third year. I'm sorry. It's just so loud in here. I would probably not.
Wait a minute. Wheeler, I bet you still stick with a third year.
No, I wouldn't, Carlos. If we had a conversation, wait a minute, Carlos. Wait a minute. Hold on. If we had a conversation and I mandated that changes needed to be made, and you sat there, Carlos, and you told me, Wheeler Brown, everything is fine. I'm not going to make any changes. We're going to go on and continue to do what it is that we're doing. And I'm going to say, well, Carlos Brown, that's not good enough, for what we're trying to accomplish right now. Some changes need to be made. And if you're not capable of making those changes, then we're going to have to look at some alternative means by which to make change.
At the end of the year?
Not necessarily stopping or ending with your particular divorce from the program. I mean, so if we have had that conversation, Carlos, and it's put out there in no uncertain terms, but you sat down there and told me that you're not going to do this, you're not going to entertain the notion that, some changes need to be made in some way, shape, or form, you're not going to look at that at all, then what you have described is an untenable situation, and, we may need to go our separate ways. But, like I said, this is something that I would consider firing for cause, because I've given you a directive in terms of, changes needing to be made within the program, and you're telling me in no uncertain terms you're not going to make any changes. So I'm not going to take that from you and then pay you $620,000 on top of that. You told me no, and I'm still going to pay you and say, that's okay, coach. Go on your merry way. See you when I see you. No, that's not acceptable right there. So somebody in legal somewhere gonna have to explain to me how I can get out of this mess that I've stepped into with my 12-foot boots.
Well, now that brings up another thing. We'll leave that for the legal authorities. But BJ, on the field, back to on the field, 12-10 record. Last week against Prairie View, I think that just ended the nail in the coffin. Some would say that Texas Southern game, albeit they won on a 54-yard field goal. Then the next week at Alcorn, 0 first downs in the second half for Southern University football. They continuously struggle. And again, I present just on the field, it just was not good or up to the standard.
I agree with you, Carlos. It was frustrating. It was frustrating for Jaguar Nation. And you can tell this, Carlos. It literally tempered the enthusiasm of Jaguar Nation. We literally went to games expecting what we've gotten, but hoping that we would get something different. I remember 2 weeks ago sitting with Charles and doing his show, and we all say that Southern is due. Southern is due. Southern is due. And that's been the mentality. Eventually, we're due for something, and the due just never came. Never showed up.
And I hate to say this, but on that show, I picked Alcorn to win. Because, see, I've seen from the inside, not looking from the outside. And by the way, I'll pat myself on the back. I don't do that much. Alcorn and Texas Southern. I told you that was going to happen. But we'll get into that because we still got about 30 minutes left on this show.
Carlos, can I trust the powers that be to get it right this time around?
Well, you're asking me that.
That's the question. That's the question that needs to be put out there in all sincerity.
I'm concerned.
Can I trust the same powers that be to get it right this time? What's going to be different in terms of the decision-making process? What's going to be different in terms of the vetting process? What is it? What are the clear and concise goals and requirements for being a head football coach at Southern University? Put it out there. Let's hear it. Let's see it. Let's shout it from the highest of highs. So that everybody out there knows that what we're looking for, what we're striving to do, what the expectations are coming in the door, the whole 9 yards. And who are we going to get to take on this monumental task? Because it is truly monumental, no doubt about that. Are the resources going to be in place in terms of getting this person the things that they need in order to be successful? Not just the head coach's salary. I mean, $310 is more than enough for anybody, I would say. But what does the assistant coach's salary pool look like? What facility upgrades are in place or moving forward? In terms of things of that nature. Is the groundwork there? The infrastructure there in terms of me coming in and being successful right away, because I know that's what you all are expecting, and I'm sure that that's probably number one in terms of requirement for the person coming in. So all those questions need to be answered, Carlos, and somebody I think needs to ask those questions of the power that be, and needs to get a satisfactory answer in terms of what we're going to do. What are we going to do moving forward?
Well, it's interesting. Graylin says it's not. Well, I was trying to read it, but it's not the same powers at B. This is a different administration. But BJ, I think that's a valid point, valid questions that needs to be asked, because some within the Jaguar Nation believe you just don't stop there. They want to see, from a athletic standpoint, move in another direction. Boy, does that sound familiar, BJ? Move in another direction. Sometimes things can't be reformed. They must be torn down and brought back up in a different light. What have you been hearing, BJ? I've been hearing the frustration going past this situation as far as, the head football coach.
Yeah, we've been hearing the same frustration, Carlos, with Jaguar Nation. And a lot of people, let's just be real, they're not happy with how the Dooley hire was made in the first place, and then the people who made the hire. And when you're the athletic director, I know regardless of, who behind the scenes may be pulling the strings, you're the guy that people are going to come to. And you've seen it online just like I've seen it online. People have voiced their opinion that they feel like we should move on from athletic director Roman Banks. There's a lot of heat that's coming his way. And a lot of people have just exactly what A.D. Brown just said. Do you trust the powers that be to make a decision, a decision that's going to put us back on the right path? And I'm pretty sure if you had to poll Jaguar Nation right now, that poll might be 50-50 at best.
Ooh.
It might be 50-50 at best.
You're being kind, BJ. I know I'm concerned. And maybe 60-40. But we won't pull it off.
Realistically, it's about 64. Yeah, I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, but they are valid points. Valid points. And to answer Wheeler, I'm going to say I'm concerned. I'm concerned because they've got to make. He's got to nail it. They, whoever, they're going to have to hit it. They're going to have to nail it. And
so, Carlos, what are your requirements moving forward? What is it that in particular that you're looking for, number one? And then number two, if you had to do the Carlos Brown short list, who out there could possibly be on your short list right now?
Well,
I'll put you on the spot, I guess.
Well, yes, and I'm used to it. I'm not going to reveal names, but I have one in particular, and I just don't want to put it out there because I don't want to give him the kiss of death. The next coach have to bring in discipline, fundamentals, has a track record of making in-game adjustments. That's one thing. Discipline. Also, he has to be a community person as well. I know it's X's and O's. You got to do that. But getting out into in the community. A short list. I have a short list. I really do. And I'm so tempted to say it. But that's kind of the criteria I have as far as for the next coach. I know that there's plans out there for the system, the Southern University, a plan to upgrade across the board, including athletics. But I also know it's going to take some time. So,
do your people have prior head coaching experience? Is that a requirement for you?
It would help, yeah. Now, I would not say that he has to. We have to only look at a head coach that has head coach experience. I would also look and talk with assistant coaches who have the drive and the hunger to want to be better. I'll talk to everybody. But at the end of the day, yeah, head coaching experience, that will weigh heavily.
So, Carlos, how would you measure the disciplinary part of what you said? How would you measure that?
I would look at film, of course, of where the coaches, where they've been, talk to former players, talk to administrators at that per se university, and see if they fit what they say they are. And in the interview process, when I get to the next step, if they say that they believe in discipline, then we will look and see if that is the case. Do I expect perfect angels on the football field because it's a football game? It's a collision sport? No, but I don't want to see what I've saw, particularly this past year. When you make a great play, one great play, then you're up and in everybody's face. I don't want to see you in the faces of coaches. And we have a team. And I don't want to see anything hurting that. Now, the social media piece, Will of BJ and Charles, I was looking yesterday. I understand that they do that, but I don't like it. Now, how can I stop that? I don't know if you can per se, but you have a rule. BJ, you've been on the football team in college. How can you curtail that if you can?
Well, I really wasn't in the social media era. We had Facebook and MySpace, but social media in 2006, 2005 is a lot different than what it is, today. But one thing that we did have is that personal foul penalties that hurt the football team were not a thing on the Pete Richards. Not a thing. I had a boneheaded penalty one year against Alcorn that happened in the first quarter. I'm about midway through the first quarter. I did not see the field again until midway through the third quarter. Personal foul penalties are not accepted. And that's how you have to curtail that. That comes from the top down. And I think what frustrated Jaguar Nation from a disciplinary standpoint is that when these points were brought up,
they were dismissed.
We were told that those are aggression penalties, and that's okay. And there's never an okay penalty where your football team is hurt. Never.
And it came at critical times too. Stopping drives and just change the momentum of the game.
And I think it's hard, Carlos, because you got to think, under Dawson Odoms, he had his faults. But one of the things that you cannot say about a Dawson Odoms football team is that they were undisciplined. They were always, when you talk about the least amount of penalty yardage, we were always tops in the SWAC, top 1 or 2. It's hard to watch disciplined football and then go to undisciplined football at the snap of a finger. That's painful to watch.
Yet, some would say, hey, you got to give him one more year. What you see is what you get. And I just don't think it would have been corrected in one season when you are in denial. That's another word, in denial. Some people are telling you, but your ego is such that no.
I just think, Carlos, you can't rush it. You guys can't rush this thing. That's number one. So I think if you're trying to get somebody in there before Christmas, I don't think that's a truly realistic goal. I think the process of going through the homework and all that stuff is going to take a lot longer than that. I think you guys are going to have to do your due diligence this time around. It may not be a quote unquote sexy pick. Like Dooley was the sexy pick, I guess. This last cycle, that sort of thing. And somebody at some point in time You may have to consider rolling the dice on an unknown or somebody that that you guys really feel good about, that sort of thing. But you gotta try to find somebody that's going to check all the boxes, and I think we're all probably in agreement that the mistakes of the last cycle can't be committed in this cycle moving forward, even though you probably got some of the same people making those decisions in this cycle that you did last cycle. So, like I said, I would want to hear from them in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, exactly what their plans are. What are they looking for? And I think that needs to be articulated to you guys, to the community, that sort of thing, so that everybody's on the same page in terms of direction. All of these little alter egos and, everybody got their own list and their, own ulterior motive, that sort of thing. All those things definitely got to be thrown out the window. And, so we all need to be on the same page, or you all need to be on the same page in terms of who we're looking at, that sort of thing. And be realistic about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't not pie in the sky. Certain people you're not gonna get. Ain't no need in trying to, throw that fishing line out there. Ain't gonna happen. You gotta be prepared to be patient with whomever's coming in the door, even though you want to win right away, that sort of thing. I mean, all that's well and good, but in the back of your mind, you guys are going to have to be patient with whomever you bring in, especially if it's somebody with no head coaching experience, that sort of thing. I mean, they're going to have to grow within the program and things of that nature. So you got to be prepared for different scenarios, and folk have to understand that, and that message has got to get out there on the regular, not just on a every now and then. It's got to be out there every chance that it can be put out there. It's got to be put out there.
With that being said, that's why I like having different perspectives on the show. And well said. With that being said, we'll move a little bit now because, as I stated earlier, the climate that we're in now, in the traditional way, you don't have 4 or 5 years. In some cases, you do. BJ, you're hearing there was a report that came out that McKinney was going to be out at Texas Southern. Then Dr. Granger said, no, at the end of the season, we'll make a assessment. It's going to be, in my humble opinion, in 2024 at SWAC Media Day, you're going to see some new faces. You're going to see some new faces. We were talking earlier. You said you were shocked about McNair. I mean, this is a conversation at Alcorn that he may not be there. It's win now, baby. No 5-year grace period anymore. That's
certain people, Carlos, certain people should be able to write their own ticket.
Yeah.
And to me, McNair is one of those people. In my judgment, he's one of those people.
Agree. I agree.
I mean, the things that he has brought to that university, the notoriety and the good publicity and the good things that he has brought to that institution. To me, he should be given the right of first refusal or whatever it is you want to call it. He's earned that. With all the championships he's put on the table, that sort of thing. Granted, it may not have been anything lately or what have you, but all the good that he's done for Alcorn State University, he has earned that in my estimation. So I'm not going to say it should be cut and dried, but, he should have more say-so in terms of whether or not it's time for him to hit the road or what have you. Nobody should be pushing him, quote unquote, out the door. That's just my thought.
Well, I agree, Willa. But Charles, there's that but. You got to win now. I totally agree with Willer. I just don't see it, but that's just my opinion.
And I agree with Wheeler too. Fred McNair, what he's done, it's been remarkable. Yeah, and unless you got the guy lined up and the pen and paper is ready to go, and you know he's the guy, I think that's a big risk.
Mm-hmm.
And not just done it with less. That's the thing. Done it with less.
Well, I'm agreeing. I'm in agreement.
Carlos, the word is, and this is just what fans are talking about, people don't have as much issue with Coach McNair in as much as they want to see changes within the staff. There's some changes that the fans feel like need to be made within that staff. And Coach McNair has been very loyal to his coaches because when he got the job, the coaches were loyal to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has stayed with that. If you think about it, there may have been only one or two coaches that have left the program since he's been there. One coach he was forced to let go. Fred Kaiser was the offensive coordinator for several years, who's now coaching professionally, by the way. But other than that, there hasn't been really a mandate to do that. But there's a lot of talk out there about some coaches that should go, and that gets ratcheted up with every loss. I think during this 5-game winning streak, there was some quietness about it. But then that Texas Southern game, the doors got blown off of it. No one expected that to happen, especially in the second half. We didn't really come out and try to push it to try to make it at least competitive. And for some people, the final straw was last week. Yes, we can win the division and some other stuff, but there's a lot of talk out there. And I agree with you guys. Coach McNair's done a lot. He was part of 4 straight division titles, part of the 6 in a row. But that seems to be wiped off the map now. It's the "what have you done for me lately" generation. Unfortunately, whether you agree or disagree, that's kind of the mindset now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you got a former football player who was a part of the McNair Championships, who's the interim president. He is seeing this program just like everybody else. And at the end of the season, whether it's today or whenever the season ends, there will be a conversation. The contract will be up at the end of this year, and we'll see how it goes. But up until last week, I think things were quieted a little bit. But after last week, it just kind of blew up all over again. And now you're ending the season perhaps against your biggest rival. And so it throws it up a whole nother notch. But I agree. I think McNair's done some great things. He's a good guy, good dude. But it seems like now we're in a win now generation. We're in a win now division. Southern's in a flux. You don't know what Gramblin's going to look like. You don't know what Prairie View's going to look like. I mean, so it's, you want to make changes when you have an opportunity to kind of get a foothold. And right now, Braves fans think we're losing a foothold on this division.
Wow. Wait a minute, Wheeler. Wait a minute. So what did I say? It's a climate now. See? I know y'all think I'm a radical, a rebel in my thinking, but I'm just telling you. Now, just what y'all said, this is the climate that you're in now, whether it's wrong or right. We got 15 minutes left. We'll stop on that part right there. Someone say he was safe. We have a presidential transition that won't fire Hugh. Well, Coach Hugh Jackson is doing great. Won some championships at Grambling. They're progressing very well. You should not even think about getting rid of Coach Hollywood Hugh. I would say Hollywood Hugh. NFL experience, cut it off. You don't need him. He's a good, excellent coach. And his record is, what is it, BJ? He's in year 2, year 3, year 2?
Year two.
Is he 12-10 overall? Nope.
Let me see. No, I don't think he's 12-10 overall. He's 5-5 right now. I want to say last year they finished 3-8.
He was at Southern, Carlos. He be looking for another job.
Well, Willie, you had me concerned, but I think you're coming over on my side now. Charles, I'm gonna make fun of you. He would still have a job if you were the AD because it's not a sample size. 3 years is enough to be able to make a decision, right?
We've had the conversations during the course of the season to where we feel like some changes need to be made, and those changes were not made after year 2. I have to take a look at that.
And Carlos, he would never have been hired if I was the AD at Grambling.
Oh, I would have hired.
I would not have hired.
Wait a minute.
He would have been my hire.
I would have.
Wait a minute. I can't
He
believe
would not have been my hire.
Melody, we got this recorded. I can't believe Willa just said that.
He would not have been my hire, Carlos. Ain't no way.
PJ Charles said he would have. I know why. I can understand.
No, man. I just think when you look at what he did at Prairie View, even though it wasn't poor, but it wasn't great, I think being a Louisiana guy, the splash.
Wait a minute, we're talking about you.
I do think it was worth taking a chance on. I would have hired Eric Dooley. Yes, sir.
No, we're talking about Hugh Jackson.
You're talking about Hugh Jackson.
Oh, Hugh Jackson. Oh, I'm sorry. It is so loud in here. I can barely hear. Would I have hired Hugh Jackson? No. I wouldn't have got rid of Fobbs. I would have.
No, definitely not.
I would not have gotten rid of Fobbs.
Definitely not.
Let me say this, Carlos, about Grambling and the Bayou Classic next week. In my opinion, Hugh Jackson will probably be okay if he wins the Bayou Classic next week. If he loses the Bayou Classic next week, the grumblings will be picking up pretty loud after next week. Has he done a nice job? Yes. But that Bayou Classic brings a whole nother set of whatever you want to put into that game. So, yeah, Hugh's okay for right now. Grambling's playing some good football right now. But, that Bayou Classic's a whole nother animal.
Well, I hope we're not at Hugh Jackson is a failed NFL coach. Well, you can't win at that level with all the resources, but then that's professional. But anyway, I'll move on from that one. Last week in the conference, it was, oh boy, Bethune-Cookman over Alabama A&M 31-14. Alabama State over Valley 20-3. Huge game coming up today for Prairie View. Texas Southern over Alcorn State 44-10. BJ, I predicted Texas Southern to win. And I said Texas Southern was a dangerous team. Coulda, shoulda beat Southern. Had FAMU down by 14 points. Lost by 2 points to Jackson State. Alcorn State coming off a tremendous victory over Southern. Their heads was high. And by the way, Charles, tell Dean Barnes I told him too that Alcorn was going to lose. Now, did I think they were going to lose by that much? No. But Texas Southern's a dangerous team, and they're going to make an assessment at the end of the season. That was bad. It wasn't even close.
And I think that's, again, people that were kind of straddling the fence on the whole McNair situation, I think last week kind of pushed it over the edge a little bit for a lot of people. Not even to come out, not even nothing, absolutely nothing. Even in the second half, nothing. Running the football instead of trying to push the ball down the field. A lot of people kind of jumped off the fence after that. And so, we got this game here. We lost control of the division. And so I think there's some people saying, you know what, it is what it is, and whatever happens after that. I interview Coach McNair every week. I want to see the best. I just think fans right now are ready for something, maybe for something different. Thank you, Coach McNair. But unless something happens within that staff, I think a lot of people say, you know what, let's do something different.
Wow, that's interesting. And those same people will tell Southern they're wrong for thinking the way they think, including you,
That,
Charles.
that's
Including
fandom,
you.
Carlos. That's fandom, Carlos. That's fandom.
And that's why I'm just shocked. Because Charles, you said the same thing almost basically about Southern. Give them another year. But you did say that you believe, though, that McNair deserves to be back. I can't believe we're talking about. Does he deserve to be back? Shame on you, all Brave Nation. Shame on you. Last night, Alabama A&M concludes their season with a 30-21 victory over Mississippi Valley State. Of course, Prairie View over Southern 27-21, and FAMU over Lincoln 28-0. Although I think FAMU probably kind of took it easy. It could have been a bigger victory. Okay, Soul Bowl prediction time, BJ. Jackson State and Alcorn State, 2 p.m. Central, ESPN Plus. Who do you like?
Hey, I came into this. I said all year that Alcorn was going to beat Jackson State. I like the way that Alcorn matches up against Jackson State, and the way that Alcorn had been rolling. I thought that, oh yes, Alcorn absolutely. But after last week, Carlos, I have my doubts. I got my doubts, Carlos. I didn't expect to see Alcorn play the way that they played a week ago in Texas Southern. I honestly just didn't see that. But I will say this, Carlos. If Alcorn plays their best game and Jackson State plays their best game, Alcorn wins. I think Alcorn is the better football team. Let me lean Alcorn on this one, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jackson State were to get it.
Wheeler?
I'm gonna go with Jackson State. I'm gonna go with Jackson State on this one. I think being at home, rivalry game and the whole thing that go along with that. I just got to go with Jackson State on this one. Although my heart is with Coach McNair, there's no doubt about that. And a win would quiet some of the boo birds just a little bit. But I think Jackson State's got a little bit too much for Alcorn at this time.
Jackson State with the quarterback switch. My concerns with Alcorn is mentally. How tough are they after that loss? And let's give credit to Texas Southern. It was a good old-fashioned butt whipping. That's simply what it was, and they were fired up. I'm going to go with Jackson State in this one because I don't know mentally, being a competitor, you want to bounce back and show last week is in the distant memory. But I think mentally they're going to – I still question are they going to be ready. Physically, they'll be ready. But mentally, I'm going to say Jackson State in this ball game.
And Carlos, somebody wants the season to be over. Somebody wants to end this madness. And it's just a matter of who gets who down early. And when that starts to creep in.
Well, now I feel even more confident about my prediction. I don't know why. Charles, we won't ask you about that prediction, but we'll let you close with we got 6 minutes left. Keys to victory for Alcorn State. Prairie View A&M and Alabama State. BJ, Wheeler, Charles, Prairie View, once again, they need to win this game. Are they going to be able to do it? Alabama State, a tough defense. Woo. I don't know about this game. So, Charles, what do you think?
Of course, I'm pulling for Alabama State. If we get it done and Alabama State beats Prairie View, we're going to brag in a couple of weeks, and we can brag then. Coach McDowell, all I think about is what Coach McDowell, Prairie View's coach, talks about at Media Day, finishing strong. This is the true definition of finishing strong. And you got a Alabama State team that's red hot right now, playing some good football. I'm going with Alabama State. I have confidence in Dr. Jason Cable. I have confidence in Alabama State that they go to Panther Stadium and get it done. Because Prairie View, all they've done, look, it hasn't been all that flashy. It hasn't been all that impressive, but they find one thing I will say, Prairie View finds a way to make plays down the stretch against Alcorn. They struggled all game long and put one drive together to kick a field goal at the horn. And that's the reason why they control the West right now. But I think Alabama State is going to ground and pound and out-physical them. I think Alabama State will win the game. That's my prediction. Alabama State.
Will, I'm going to take Prairie View. And I'll be honest, Alabama State is tough offensively, and they get enough done. Prairie View, this is your opportunity again. Well, it seems like the third year out of 5 to get it done. If you don't get it done, you talking about fans disappointed. It will be Prairie View. But I'm going to go with Prairie View at home. 3 points, they'll squeak by.
I'm gonna go with Alabama State. I've been betting against them.
I knew you would.
I've been betting against them pretty much all year, and I've been eating crow when it comes to them pretty much the entire year. And this week I'm gonna go with them to turn this thing around.
All right, 3 minutes left. Here we go. Texas Southern and UAPB. Texas Southern wins, and I don't think they'll let up. Concerns about, well, Coach McKinney will be there next year. That will play itself out. Mr. Owens and their quarterback have done a pretty decent job, and I look for them to roll. 2 p.m. HBCU. Go. Charles Wheeler, quickly.
I think, Ladarius Owens was the real deal. He's all-time leading rusher in Texas Southern history. Look, I don't know what's going to happen with Coach McKinney. Usually when stuff leaks out like that, it plays its way out that way. I'm hearing different stuff. I think the players met with A.D. Granger to try to save Coach McKinney based on the reports that's out there. I don't know if the decision's been made or not, but Coach McKinney's a good dude. We'll see what happens. I think Texas Southern's going to get it done at home. I just think they're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas Southern wins one for the Gipper today.
Oh, wait a minute. The Gipper?
I think they win one for the Gipper. And I think it'll go a long way towards Coach McKinney getting an extension of some sort, whether it be a year or whether it be, another 2 years, what have you. I don't know enough about his body of work to determine whether or not he needs to be there, continue to be there for the long haul. And, that's a question that needs to be addressed. So, but I think Texas Southern rises to the occasion today and win one for the coach.
What they've all been through, Andrew Body not there, this team is probably one of the teams that has overcome adversity and at the end of the season are playing well. Kudos to Texas Southern, Coach McKinney, to still stay in there with it. And, I got them winning as well. Last but not least, and then we'll get out of here on this edition of the Carlos Brown Show, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman has nothing to lose. They're not expected to win. It reminds me of some Bayou Classics in the past. Grambling State coming in with an 8-2 record, Southern dismal record, and they've shocked the world. Now, after saying that and giving that speech, do I believe that will happen? No. FAMU will win, but I think Bethune-Cookman will give its best shot. FAMU is just the better team. I like FAMU in this ball game. Wheeler, then Charles, and then we'll wrap it up.
I think FAMU is a better team also. I believe they'll go into the championship game on a high note. And I just believe they'll take care of Bethune today, although Bethune is going to be a tough out, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Pride, emotion, Charles, but FAMU's a better team.
FAMU.
Simple as that. We didn't get a chance to talk, of course, Southern basketball. Well, quickly, I'll say the women's basketball team, 61-57 loss to Miami. And, boy, the men's team, winning right in regulation time It goes in overtime. They lost 88 to 80 to Western Illinois. Women 0-4 in the season, men 1-3. But hey, they're still playing very good. Want to thank the Blue and Gold Citrus Club, a proud sponsor of the Carlos Brown Show. Until next Saturday at 11 a.m. Peace and God bless.